All right, everybody, welcome here to the second episode of the Walk Off podcast. I am Austin Bradley, sitting here with the principal, Jordan Ellsworth, the new principal of Puxico High School. Wanted to get that in there. Super proud of him. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So we are back for the second week. We didn't get to go last week. A little bit of unforeseen circumstances kept us both off, and we are back and ready to go. So for this week. So with all that being said, we're going to jump right into it. We talked a little bit about rule changes, talked about some teams that were underperforming, overperforming. We got a lot to cover tonight. And we don't have a ton of time to do it in. So we're going to jump right into it. And we're going to talk about, we've seen over the last couple weeks, some of the benefits, I think myself, of the balanced schedules. The teams, everybody's playing everybody this year. You're not only going somewhere or another, you may not be going everywhere, but you're seeing everybody. And that's kind of a new thing I think they're testing out. And what do you think? I mean, the Cardinals played the Mariners for the first time since 2019. And next week, the Angels will come to town for the first time since 2019. And if you're a Cardinals fan, as well as all the other exciting series, you got the Houston and the Braves played an electric series last weekend. What do you think? What have you seen with this balanced scheduling?
I've enjoyed it from the standpoint of getting to see different teams play each other early. With the old schedule, you always had a lot of division games early and a lot of division games late. You really wouldn't see, you might have a couple of interleague series early, but you wouldn't see those until June or July. I know they were a little more spread out the last few years, so you did see them like every month, but now that everybody plays everybody, it's just a totally different schedule. And I think it's a tougher schedule. It's not just for one, a certain group of teams. It's tougher for everybody. They don't only call it a balanced schedule because everybody's playing everybody. They call it a balanced schedule because it to me, it does balance out the playing field a little bit. I think you're seeing that with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're hot and they're playing different teams. The Cardinals, it's hard to say. They're just not playing well. I don't think the schedule's hurt them in the sense that they beat themselves more than the other team has beat them, in my opinion. I think they had an opportunity to win it. They played some games at home and don't have a very good home record. I think they're like 4-7 or something like that at home. Seattle was not playing well when they went up to Seattle and they lost 2 out of 3. San Francisco wasn't playing well. They lost 3 out of 4. Yeah. It's Austin. We're doing a video. Okay. I'll be back in a minute. Okay. So anyway, yeah. That's cool. You say hello? I don't know.
Hey, buddy. I can see him. I can see the little hand.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I think you're seeing a lot better games. And I enjoy the competition. Just wish our team was playing a little bit better, but I think they will in the long run. Like I said, they've had opportunities where, the record would be a little bit different, but they just hadn't played well. So, but the schedule overall, I like it. I think it balances out the playing field, and people get to see teams that they don't get to see or hadn't saw in years. So,
yeah, you mentioned the Pittsburgh Pirates, the St. Louis Cardinals, 2 teams we're going to single out here today. We're going to start with the Pittsburgh Pirates, though. I think they deserve to take up quite a bit of our time today. They're 18-8. They took 2 of 3 against the Dodgers in Pittsburgh, winning with a 6-2 victory today. You look at them, they're a very young team. Their shortstop is hurt. Their shortstop, who is going to be a superstar, and O'Neal Cruz, is hurt. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. I think it was retracted to about 2 weeks ago, so we still got 4 to 6 weeks to go. When you look at this and you look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, 10 games above 500, winning, like leading the National League Central Division. How do they sustain this? I mean, they're leading the division by 2 games. It's very early in the season. They're a young team, but they have a guy like Andrew McCutchen who knows the city. He's been there before. He produced for a lot of years for them. Well, he's back and he's producing again. A guy that got, I don't want to say an afterthought, but a guy that definitely had left his prime has come back and played well. You've got a elite closer in David Bednar. How do you, if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, find a way to sustain?
I think you got to kind of follow the Tampa Bay Rays blueprint a little bit. I mean, I don't know that you do the opener as much as Tampa Bay has in the past or things like that. But when you don't have a very large payroll like those two teams do, I think Pirates have to take a page out of their book. They have to find players that nobody else noticed, and they've got to produce. And this year, so far, that's what they have. They have a bunch of guys that, you know, they look like some of the Tampa Bay Rays players, or, you know, Rosarina comes to mind. Who would have thought, you know, he would be the player he is, you know, when the Cardinals traded him? You know, it's just one of those deals. So I think in order to sustain that, the guys that are doing what they're doing now, it has to be consistent throughout the year. You can't have a Johanna Oviedo, who's one of their best pitchers right now. You know, you can't look back, you know, a month from now and his ERA over the last month has been a 12. You know,
right.
Then it's going to go in the tank. So when you haven't been winning and you have a team like this with a bunch of guys that are unproven besides Reynolds, McCutchen, you know, and Bednar from the bullpen, these guys kind of have to have career years or foundation type years where they're becoming a all-star type player. Like, this is the player that we're going to see moving forward, and that's how you sustain it. You know, if these guys go back to what they always have been, then they're going to struggle. I mean, it's something that they just have to work very hard every day to keep up. And they're going to have more people step up, you know, because McCutchen's not going to be red hot all year. You know, Reynolds is going to struggle some. Their pitching is going to struggle some. So they have to have guys, they have to have other guys step up as well. So
I agree. I think you made a good move that when you lock up Brian Reynolds for 8 years, a guy that 2 weeks ago requested a trade, if you can believe that. Keep Brian Hayes. He's somebody we haven't even mentioned yet. He's a guy. He's a guy that let's be honest. You know, if Nolan Arenado's not in the NL Central, he's the best third baseman going away in the National League Central.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And he's a guy. He's very young, still under some team control, if I'm not mistaken. Extend him out. The Atlanta Braves have put themselves in a very, very nice position by extending all these guys, all these young players that have come up in the last couple of years, and extending these guys to 7, 8, 9-year contracts. Take a page out of their playbook. Get this guy roped in while you've got Reynolds. Rope in Cruz here. And now, you know, you might be looking at a situation where, and kind of like we were talking about last week with the Angels, where, okay, come the trade deadline, they could be in a position where, okay, now they're trading to make a push, to make a push toward wrapping the division up. I think the Pirates are in a little bit better of a spot than some people think. I think I'm a David Bell guy. I like their Derek Shelton. Who's David Bell?
I'm a Cincinnati fan.
I'm a Derek Shelton guy. I like Derek Shelton. I think good manager. I think they've got the right leadership. And personally, I think that this is a team that they can go go out, put themselves in good position, make a playoff push, and maybe win a series if they can sustain it. But they got to get more help, and they got to get one or two guys, I think, in my opinion, for their starting rotation. Because if Johan Oviedo is your best guy at this point in his career, as young as he is, and as shaky as his time with the Cardinals was, I don't know how well that's going to work out for you. David Bednar can't pitch 9 innings every day. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they are a player away.
Yeah.
I think they are a player away from being a contender, like a real contender.
Yeah. The pitching is going to be a key. If they want to win division or lock down a wild card spot, I think they're going to have to add to the roster. I don't think it's a roster that can go 162 games and win a playoff spot or win a division without adding to it. Some teams sometimes are good and you're like, why change anything? The Braves the last few years, there's been some times where like, why are we trading anybody? We're playing so well. But I don't think the Pirates have that kind of roster. You talk about the Braves locking their players up. I think they could, pull a page out of their book, but you have to realize the guys that the Braves have signed are superstars. Austin Riley is one of the best third basemen in the game. Ozzie Albies is one of the best middle infielders in the game. And then, like Acuna, he's a superstar as well. I know he's been hurt a lot, but so some of those guys in the Pirates still need to elevate their game some, in order for them to get in that category. But this might be the year that's happening. This might be the year that Ke'Bryan Hayes becomes a superstar. This might be the year that Johan Oviedo is coming into a top 10 pitcher, in the league or whatever. So we may be seeing that. But I agree with you. They're going to have to add to this roster if they want to win a playoff spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, when you look at it, you talk about Johan Oviedo. I mean, Sandy Alcantara was not a Cy Young level pitcher his rookie year. So it takes time. And like you said, you never know. Whenever you turn on a baseball game, you might be seeing a future star.
Alcantara is one I wish we had back. Yeah, so those in a trade did not work.
We will go from a team that is everything is going right for them, 10 games over 500, to a team that we know really well that it feels like right now it don't matter if they're up by 10 runs, they are going to find a way to lose. That is the St. Louis Cardinals. They are 10-16. They have not played very well at all. They have lost 5 of their last 7 games, including a walk-off home run 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago in San Francisco to a guy that has as many catcher's interferences as he does home runs. What's the deal with the Cardinals, man? They are struggling. They've been riding the struggle bus since opening day, it feels like.
Yeah. I told you a few weeks ago that I thought it was different. I still kind of feel that way. I think you talked me off the ledge a little bit, but I think I think there was a little bit of truth in that. I think something is going on. Something's missing. I don't know if it's the manager. I don't know if it's personnel, or if it's just a run of bad luck. I'm hoping it's just a run of bad luck. I think Ollie Marmol is fine as manager. I just think, you don't have the big boys hitting. When they do hit, we're not getting any pitching. When we pitch like we have this week, we're not really getting any hitting. And then when we kind of put it all together one game 2 nights ago, the bullpen blows it. So, it was a 4-2 game, and, 4 runs is not, lighting the scoreboard up, but the way we've been struggling, Cardinals had been struggling, 4 runs was a lot. And we came back, scored them late, and had them down to their last strike and gave up a walk-off home run. So anything and everything that could go wrong with the Cardinals has went wrong. And it's like me and you were talking earlier. I bet if you looked at last year's Cardinals team, if you looked at the 2019 team, just recent playoff teams, not counting COVID year, because that was just a wasted year. I mean, I'm glad that we had some baseball that year towards the end, but I really don't count that. But if you go back to those two seasons in particular, I guarantee you that those two teams, the 19 Cardinals and the 21 Cardinals, had a stretch where they went 10 and 15, 10 and 16. I guarantee you they did. But like you said earlier, people are magnifying it because it's the beginning of the season. So
Right.
Going back to 2019 with the Washington Nationals, a team who beat the Cardinals in the NLCS, they fired their manager. No, didn't fire their manager. I'm sorry. Dave Martinez was already there. But they were, I think they were 21 and 29. And that's even further along in the season than the Cardinals are. And they came all the way back and win the World Series. So it's not time to panic. The good thing it's April. I just hope it's that 10 out of 16, 10 and 16 stretch that every team goes through. We're just going through it here at the beginning.
Yeah, that 2019 Nationals team boat raced the Cardinals. They didn't just beat them; they boat raced them. And
absolutely,
last year the Phillies, of course, they did fire their manager, and they ended up with a World Series berth. I'm not calling for Oliver Marmol's job here. That's not my point at all. But
I think unfortunately for him, if it does continue into May, and God forbid June, I think the unfortunate part for him is that's going to be the next thing, because it has to fall on somebody, and so don't mark my words on that. If it continues, and we're still 5 games under, and this team's not very good come June, you're going to start to hear that, like serious talk about it, and not just fans. It's going to be coming from the media and probably from the clubhouse at some point. So I don't think that'll be the case. I think by Memorial Day, we're going to see a totally different team. I'm not saying we'll be in first place. We may only be around 500, but I think the team will have a lot different feel by Memorial Day.
I think so too. We'll move on from the Cardinals in just a second. I want to talk about 2 players in particular, 2 totally different players. One guy is a guy that just came back, and potentially, should the Cardinals maybe start shopping out this other player? The first guy is a guy that, I've said it to some people, I feel like with this certain player, I'm watching a movie that I've seen before, maybe watching the sequel, hoping that it ends a little differently. Paul DeJong, of course, made his return to the Cardinals last weekend, has hit very well. He's actually hitting .471 right now in his first about 5 games or so. Hit a home run today, a big home run to extend the Cardinal lead in San Francisco. But we saw this last year. DeJong come up, hit 3 straight consecutive games with a home run, had a couple massive hits in that series sweep of the Yankees. And that series last year, we talked about him, and I remember very vividly, we talked like, okay, like this might be the team, this might be the team that gets number 12 after seeing that series. And then Paul DeJong just jumped off of a cliff after that, kind of went back into that same Paul DeJong that he had been since 2020, really. Batting below 200, just really, really struggling, striking out all the time. He's taking better at bats so far, even better than the bats that he took when he came up last year. Is this something that maybe as a Cardinals fan, should Cardinals fans be hesitant to be like, all right, maybe DeJong has righted the ship, maybe he's turned his career around, or is it, jump all in? What do you think about Paul
DeJong? Paul DeJong's played so poorly over the last few years. I think you have to just sit back and watch and observe. It's like I was telling you earlier, I think people forget how good he was his first 3 seasons. I mean, people were talking about him being a top 10 shortstop. In fact, I think he was in MLB's, top 10 shortstop show back in 2019, or maybe even going into 2020. That's how good he was. He's not the best defensive shortstop. He lacks a little range, but he's still that caliber player. We just haven't seen it. One thing that should be encouraging for Cardinal fans, including myself, is he's changed his swing. He's changed his timing.
Yes.
His leg kick is non-existent. He's short to the ball. He's kind of just, short step, get the foot down and try to hit the ball out in front of the plate. So I think that change has helped him. Can he sustain it? We'll just have to sit back and observe. But when you don't go out and you don't go after any of the big shortstops, you kind of got to give the guy a chance. I mean, there's not really, unless you're just ready to throw Mason Wynn out there. I think he deserves, this last chance. So we just got to sit back and watch.
I agree. I think John Mozeliak, Ollie Marmol, those are the two that those are the big opinions that carry weight. And I will move on to another player, kind of the opposite. He just got sent down. It's not going to be who you think it is. Kind of been bounced around a little bit. Hit a massive home run in the playoffs last year. Juan Yepez. I am a big Juan Yepez guy. I'm on the Juan Yepez bandwagon. If there is one that exists, I am probably driving it. I think that Juan Yepez is a major league ready player now. I don't think tomorrow. I don't think next season. I don't think next month. I think Juan Yepez needs to be in the major leagues. But the Cardinals don't seem to agree with me. I think he has proven himself, and I think it's time to get him up here. I think he is I think he's a better fielder, defensive player than Alec Burleson, and I think he is a better hitter than Alec Burleson. And I think you could probably say that he's better on offense than Dylan Carlson. He's not a center fielder. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to say that he's a gold glove defender, but I think he is a guy that can come up and he can be a major contributor to the Cardinals. So
we're doing a show here. Okay?
As a guy that's leading this Juan Yepez bandwagon, I'm going to say this. I think the Cardinals either need to play him or trade him. I think they have an outfield logjam. That's how you fix it. And you don't waste a young man that's career is going to go away at some point. Don't waste him away in AAA just because you don't know where to put him. I know where to put him. Put him where you put Alec Burleson today. And I know Alec Burleson hit a home run. I don't care. I think Juan Yepez takes really good at bats. I think he wants to put the ball in play. He wants to, get on the base paths. It's not all about hitting home runs, and I think he's got power. I'm interested to get that kind of turned into a rant. I didn't really mean for it to. But what do you think of Juan Yepez? What's your opinion?
Well, I'll start with Alec Burleson and then lead into Juan Yepez. I know why the Cardinals have fallen in love with Alec Burleson based on what he did last year in AAA, what he done kind of towards the end of last season and kind of spring training. But for me, he hasn't hit well enough to be in the lineup every day like he has been. He's a liability defensively. I think you're right. I think Juan Yepez is probably a better defender in the outfield, even though I don't like Juan Yepez as an everyday outfielder. But yeah, he's got to be on the roster at some point. I think him and Gorman are guys now, along with Walker, in my opinion, and probably Mason Wynn because he's shortstop. Those are the 4 position players that are untouchable, in my opinion. If you're going to talk and trade with the Cardinals, don't start with any of those 4 because it's not going to go anywhere. You can start with anybody else. I don't care who you throw out there. You can start with O'Neill. You can talk about Carlson. You can even talk about Nootbaar, as much as I like him, depending on the trade piece that they're talking about. But
What about Donovan?
Yeah,
What about Donovan? What about Donovan?
Yeah. That makes it a little tougher. It had to be a really, really good trade. And the only reason why I say that, the only reason why I don't put him in there with those four is because Gorman's played a pretty good second base. A couple starts he had. I know he's probably he's not better than Donovan at second base, but he can sure play it with no problem. So, but Donovan, he's kind of right outside that list. It would have to be a really good trade. But a couple of those guys are going to have to go, and the Cardinals are in a good position. They can package a couple of those outfield bats, any combination you want to pick besides a Yepez and a Walker. And you can package that with some young pitching, and you can probably go get anything you want, whether it be an Ohtani, whether it be another big name starting pitcher that maybe hasn't been mentioned yet, that we don't even know is going to be on the block at some point. But they're in a good position as far as that's concerned. And if we're playing well and we get to July and they don't pull the trigger on one of those big trades, I think they're going to regret it, because they do have a log jam. And a couple of these guys are going to have to go. There's nowhere for them to play.
Right.
And that's going to continue. So I think it would be better suited for the Cardinals to take a couple of those guys, make a trade for pitching, because we obviously need starting pitching. And you can always use another bullpen piece. So that's my thought on that. But yeah, I definitely agree with it. Last thing I'll say is Juan Yepez definitely needs to be on the roster, like now.
I definitely agree with that. We are going to shift gears here completely. You did mention Shohei Ohtani. Jeff Passan and John Morosi last week broke some news that the Angels are kind of starting to walk back. They said that they would not trade Shohei Ohtani. They're kind of starting to walk that back a little bit. They sit at 14-12 above 500, but in third place of the AL West. Again, it's very, very, very early. Only 2 games back, or 1 game back, I should say. Other than the Cardinals, we talked about them, and as Cardinals fans, we can dream on. Not that it won't happen, but it probably won't happen. Other than the Cardinals, who, and don't say everybody, because I know, but because who does Shohei Ohtani fit the best with? I've got a couple teams, but I'll let you go first.
Well, let's just start with the places he's not going. He's not going to Pittsburgh. Don't care how well they played. He's not going to Houston because they've let guys go continuously and didn't sign them. He's not going to a Tampa Bay. He's probably not going to a Boston. So those are just a few teams. I can name some more that I think he's not going to, but I don't want to take up too much time. But the teams that have a legitimate shot, and I'll put the Cardinals in there because I think they do. It just depends on if they want to, if they really decide they want to, and that'll depend on if they think they can re-sign him or not. If they think they can re-sign him and they're willing to give him that big mega contract, then I think they'll do it. So you got to throw them in there. I think, how for real do the Cubs think they are? Because the Cubs have money, and the Cubs could do it.
Yes, they.
You can never count out the Yankees. And the Yankees were one of those teams that he wanted to go to in the beginning. But just for whatever reason, just didn't. I don't really see the Dodgers going after him. I think it's a real short list. I think you got Cubs, Cardinals, Yankees. I'm trying to think who else. Maybe the Dodgers. You never know. And you can't count the Padres because AJ Preller's just he's a gunslinger. You can't count him out. And I think the dark horse is Texas. A lot of people don't think about Texas, but they have a lot of money as well. They got the new ballpark. It would be hard to do because it's in the same division, but that would be my list right there. With probably in this order, probably Cubs, Cardinals, Yankees, maybe the Dodgers, and then, like I said, the dark horse for me would probably be Texas.
I got you. I got 3 teams, and they're all 3 National League teams. Well, 4 teams, because I'm going to go with you. I'm going to put the Yankees in there. I think they have a shot. 2 teams you said, 1 team you didn't. I think the Cubs. I and this pains me to say this, but this Cubs team impresses me. I think this Cubs team is a team that will not sell. They're going to buy at the deadline. This is a Cubs team that's going to compete, and they're going to be around. I just think so. The Cardinals, like you said, I think they've got the pieces. I think they have the best trade package. You remember whenever Soto was on the market last year, and everybody was talking about, okay, who has the best package? It was unanimous that the Cardinals had the best package. Nobody could offer anything better.
Oh, without a doubt. They could have had him. The first day they started talking about trading him, they could have had him, without a doubt.
But I think a team that it will be interesting to see, the Phillies. I think the Phillies could go out and make a run at him. They've got Kyle Schwarber, who can play in the outfield. If you want to just bring him in strictly as a DH.
I mean, he's going to pitch for him.
Well, yes, pitch, and also designate be a DH. I really think the Phillies could be in that race. So I think it's going to be in this order: the Cubs, the Cardinals, the Phillies, and the Yankees. I think those are the 4 teams that are going to be in the race if they decide to trade him. Again, they're above 500 right now. If that continues to be a thing, you don't know. I think he's gone at the end of the year anyway. I think he's gone anyway.
I think it's 50-50 on an in-season trade. I think they're going to have if I'm the Angels and we're not in it, I'm trading it. I just am. I'm trading him and I'm getting everything that I can get. If the Cardinals want to give up the house for him, that's what I would go to first. Because I think with Soto, like the Soto deal last year, if the Cardinals want to do it and the Angels say he's available, all the Cardinals have to do is say we want him, and they'll have him. But then again, if the Angels go down that road of, well, we got to have Walker and we got to have Wynn and we got to have Yepez and we got to have your 2 best pitchers, like Liberatore and a Graceffo, then no, trade him somewhere else. But if they want to talk, if they want to be realistic and maybe talk about a couple of those pitchers and then maybe talk about, a Nootbaar, a Carlson or somebody like that, fine. They can get it done without trading Walker. They can. I don't really want to give up Wynn, but if they had to, we're talking about Shohei Ohtani here. So if it took Wynn to get the deal done, then I think you would have to part with him. But if they want to do it, all they got to say is we're ready.
Yeah, I think too with Wynn, you have Edman who is an elite shortstop. He's an elite defensive shortstop. He's an elite second baseman. I think too, and this is just a personal opinion, I think Nootbaar is going to be a guy that if you want to sign him to that big contract, like I said, I don't think he's going back to LA anyway. I think he's a guy that you're going to maybe use to pull him in. They hit it off. We're big time buddies in the World Baseball Classic. Use that to your advantage if you are the Cardinals. Hey man, we got your old buddy Lars Nootbaar here. You want to come play with him again? Y'all always got along real well. I think you can use that. But I mean, ultimately, it's kind of just like last year in Juan Soto. All the Cardinals had to do last year was pull the trigger. They were Dylan Carlson away from having him. Really, they were.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think hindsight 2020. I'm glad they didn't sell for that.
Yeah. Right now, it looks like a unbelievable decision. You know, at the time, because I just thought he was a good fit in St. Louis, and maybe if he's in a St. Louis uniform, maybe he's playing different. I just think he fits better on the St. Louis roster. I mean, when you talk about putting him maybe in between a Goldschmidt and an Arenado, but the way he has performed, and that's the only thing that we can go off of, he hasn't been in a Cardinal uniform. So based off what he's done with Padres, I think it was a great decision not to trade for him. I mean, until he becomes the Juan Soto of old, I think the Cardinals made a great decision.
I do too. That is what we're going to talk about as far as trades go. Ultimately, we will talk more about that as the weeks, months go on, as we get closer to, I believe it is August 2nd, that August 2nd trade deadline.
Yeah.
And we got one more thing to cover. We've talked a little bit about divisions today. You want to talk about a good division? Look no further than the American League East. Every single team is 500 or better, and 4 of the 5 are at least 2 games over 5. Actually, I take that back. They were at least 3 games over 500. The Red Sox at 13-13 sit at the bottom. The Rays at 21-5. The Orioles at 17-8. The Blue Jays at 16-9. And the Yanks at 14-11. The Yankees just lost their first season series of the year yesterday. There's not enough room for all of those teams in the postseason, my man. One or two of those guys, 1 or 2 of those teams are going to weed themselves out.
Yeah.
Who do you think it'll be? Who do you think continues to sustain? What are you thinking about the AL East?
Man, I think Boston's probably the odd man out there. I think the other 4 teams are better than them. And I could be wrong. I mean, we could roll around September in Boston, or October in Boston being the playoffs, but I think they're the odd man out. It's going to be hard to get 4 teams in. You know, you're talking about a division winner, and then the other 3 taking all 3 wild card spots. I think that's a stretch. So if I had to pick another team that's probably on the fence, it would probably be the Orioles. I know they got a good record right now, but I just can't imagine a scenario where the Yankees don't make the playoffs. Because I think they're going to go out and make some moves. I think they're going to add a big arm. They always try to add a bat. But I mean, they could very well have 4 teams in the playoffs. We'll just have to wait and see.
I think they could. I think they're going to need a fall off from that second place AL West team in order to get in. I don't think it's the AL Central that's going to threaten too much, but I do think the AL West, they'll need a fall off from the Astros or the Rangers, whoever overtakes. But again, I mean, the AL West is also in a situation where they got 4 teams right here that believe they've got a shot to make the playoffs. Of course, that's the Rangers, the Astros, Angels, and the Mariners. So, we'll see. We'll see how all that shakes out. I'm impressed with the Orioles, man. I think the Orioles are going to buy at the deadline. We talked about the deadline a lot tonight. But yeah, I think the Orioles are going to be there.
They should buy because they have the young pieces in place now, and they got more coming. So why not go out and use your farm system to put the veterans with this team now? You know, they got the young guys, all the young guys that they need. If they can put some veterans on this team, some high profile players at the trade deadline, maybe, and I'm not talking like they're going to add 5 people, but if they can add a big arm and a big bat, I think they're already good. I mean, it might be a cinch for them to make the playoffs if they add those two pieces. Because I love their young guys. They got the best young core in Major League Baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle, Jorge Mateo. That's a guy we didn't even talk about 2 weeks ago. Whenever we did things, Cedric Mullins. They're going to be really good. I think they're going to be really good for the future if they can keep some of these guys around and keep this core intact. With that being said, I mean, I can't think of anything else right now. Of course, there's a couple.
I mean, yeah, there's some other things, but we'd be on here. I mean, we could be on here all night,
right.
about stuff. I think some stuff that we can touch on next episode. We didn't really get to some of the other rule changes, so definitely would like to talk about the Max Scherzer situation. Him being ejected last week, that kind of sent some ripples through Major League Baseball, but I think those are probably 3 topics that we can start off with next week. And then, of course, whatever happens over the course of next week, there may be another big story that we talk about. So, yeah, we can definitely.
Right. I think the Scherzer deal is something that we need to be able to stretch out over a 10, 15, maybe even 20-minute a session. And that's honestly something I need to read up on a little more. But yeah, so I'm not gonna keep our viewers watching too much longer. We hope you've enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it. I know it was nice to get a break a little bit, kind of refreshing. So guys, this has been Austin Bradley here with the principal Jordan Ellsworth. Here for the Walk Off Podcast. Again, we're here on Thursdays on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. We appreciate everybody that watches. Feel free to share, to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, and hopefully all things good Lord willing, the creek don't rise, as my grandparents used to say. We'll be back next Thursday. So we'll see you guys. Everybody be safe.
See you, everybody.